Hey there, everybody. It's Pastor Jason. I've got another book review for you. I meant to give you one last month, and August just kind of went out the window. I turned around and it was September. Sorry about that. People always ask me, hey, Jason, what books do you recommend, being a pastor and all. Back in July, I gave you Spiritual Disciplines. I hope you enjoyed that. This month, I'm giving you a book by Robert Coleman called Master Plan of Evangelism. It's a really good book. It's got a Christianese type of word, evangelism, in the title. You can find out what the definition of that is. I'll try to put that in the video, or at least in a link in the description, where I've got a little video where I define evangelism for those who don't understand. It's just simply telling the gospel to people, the gospel, trying to get the gospel to make a difference in people's lives. It's a very small book. It's only 8 chapters. Honestly, if you were diligent, you could read this in a week. 2 if you wanted to have a couple of skip days. But it's really profound. It's got really good context for the age we're living in. And Robert Coleman basically lays out the fact that the master's plan, notice it's the master plan. He's talking about the master. Jesus' plan for evangelism was discipleship, discipling one another, how to live more like Christ. He had 12 disciples and taught them how to live holy lives, a teacher to a student. And there's another big Christianese kind of word, same video will help you. Discipleship is simply actively learning from someone how to be more like Christ. Bringing your questions, telling them about what you don't understand, praying with them, overcoming obstacles together, right? It's more of a relationship where the teacher is really involved in your life, okay? It's a coming alongside and doing life with. I want to read you a couple of quotes, because that's what I like to do with our reviews. I want to read you a couple of quotes just so you can kind of get the feel for the fact that this is not a textbook. It's a real simple read. You don't have to have a doctorate to understand this thin little book. One question, a couple of quotes really quick. He's talking about the men willing to learn. He's talking about the disciples themselves. What is more revealing about these men is that at first they do not impress us as being key men. None of them occupy prominent places in the synagogue, nor did any of them belong to the Levitical priesthood. For most part, they were common, laboring men, probably having no professional training beyond the rudiments of knowledge necessary for their vocation, their job. And then he goes on and he says, yet Jesus saw in these simple men the potential for leadership for the kingdom. They were indeed unlearned and ignorant according to the world's standard, but they were teachable. Though often mistaken in their judgments and slow to comprehend spiritual things, they were honest men, willing to confess their need. Their mannerisms may have been awkward and their abilities limited, but with the exception of the traitor, their hearts were big. Another quote I would give you, Robert Coleman, going to get into the nitty-gritty of things too, like about the church in this day and age. He writes, if Sunday services and membership training classes are all that a church has to develop young converts into mature believers, then they are defeating their own purpose by contributing to a false security. And if the new convert follows the same lazy example, it may ultimately do more harm than good. Discipleship is what he's trying to say. Discipleship is so much more than just showing up on a church on Sunday and going to the church member class. It's so much more. It's a full life of learning, growing, developing, and that's the case he's making, that we need discipleship to be happening. there's a strength in the humility of recognizing I have a total dependence on the Lord. I need to know how to do it better. I'm never going to get it right in this life, but I need to know how to do it better. Can you help me? Lastly, one last quote I'm going to leave you with is, with such men, Jesus was willing to put up with a lot of those things which issued from their spiritual immaturity. I'm going to say that again. With such men, Jesus was willing to put up with a lot of those things which issued from their spiritual immaturity. He knew that they could master these defects as they grew in grace and knowledge. Their capacity to receive revelation would grow, provided they continued to practice what truth they did understand. Discipleship is for everybody. Discipleship is for the new believer, or maybe even the pre-believer. One could make that argument. So, and for the mature believer, or the middle ground believer. Discipleship is for everyone who follows Jesus. It's the master plan of evangelism. It's how he's going to get the word out about the gospel to the entire world. I can't say enough. This is a great book. If the fact that it doesn't have the word discipleship in the title is important, though maybe a little misleading. You might pick this book up and go, "Oh, I want to know how to, evangelize on the street." And really, he's going to make a case, and I think a well-structured case, that evangelism that works is really discipleship from one person to the next. Hey, if you want to get it, you can get it on Amazon. It's pretty cheap. I want to say it's like $8 or $9. I want to say you can get it in the Kindle edition as well. So, and there are like little study questions at the end of each. That's what it is. There's like a whole section of it that is just study questions. So if you're one of those people too that likes a little bit of a lesson and a little bit of study, or you want to read it together as a group of people, Master Plan of Evangelism by Robert Coleman is a great read. I hope that was a blessing to you. Be blessed. Be a blessing.